You'd think taking a food known for being cheap and casual and trying to convince people it was haute cuisine would be a losing business strategy. But it was a winner for California Pizza Kitchen until it wasn't, which is why today we're covering the rise and fall of California Pizza Kitchen. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other pizza chains you would like to hear about. Okay, time for a hot, gooey, and surprisingly upscale slice of Weird History Food.
Have you ever visited the California Pizza Kitchen?
No, dear Lord, no.
California Pizza Kitchen could only have been invented in California, a place where you can order a pizza topped with goat cheese and pine nuts. And everyone just nods like that's normal. The idea was so quintessentially Beverly Hills, it almost feels like satire. A gourmet pizzeria for people who didn't want to drive all the way to Spago, dress up, or make eye contact with Wolfgang Puck. And yet, out of that sunny vortex of ambition, CPK somehow catapulted itself from a single weirdly fancy pizza shop into a global brand. The chain began in 1985, thanks to two people you would not expect to revolutionize California dining or pizza: criminal defense lawyers Rick Rosenfield and Larry Flax. These were men who had dedicated their lives to defending the accused and navigating the legal system. And then one day, pizza. Maybe the criminal system just broke them. Maybe they just really liked carbs. We may never know. What we do know is that the first California Pizza Kitchen opened on Beverly Drive after the pair scraped together a frightening amount of mostly borrowed money, $200,000 in loans and savings, plus another $350,000 from friends. Imagine calling your buddies and saying, "Hey, can we borrow a small house's worth of cash to build a restaurant that serves grape leaves on pizza?" It's a miracle these people still answered their calls. Then again, California. Actually, the plan wasn't even originally pizza. Flax and Rosenfield's first concept was a pasta cafeteria, which tells you everything you need to know about how quickly restaurant ideas mutate in Los Angeles. But eventually, the vision clicked into place. Spago for the masses. Of course, Wolfgang Puck had already turned high-end pizzas into an art form. But his restaurant required money, effort, and the emotional fortitude to pretend not to see celebrities eating next to you. CPK offered the same creativity in a friendlier, slightly cheaper, less intimidating setting. Pizza without the paparazzi. Pizzarazzi? Let's workshop that. Anyway, none of that would matter without a menu people actually want to eat, which is where Ed Ledoux entered like the pizza wizard he truly was. Ledoux, who had been the pizza chef at Wolfgang Puck's first Spago, was already famous among food insiders for inventing toppings that made traditionalists want to faint. And he brought that same, "what if we just put literally anything on a pizza?" energy to CPK. The original menu featured ingredients like lamb sausage, pancetta, radicchio, pine nuts, and grape leaves. Items that, in 1985, were considered so exotic on pizza that some diners probably assumed they were on a prank show. But did it work? Well, you're watching a breakdown video about it, so what do you think? Anyway, if CPK needed a sign they were doing something right, it came immediately. Their very first customer was actress Shirley MacLaine. On opening day, you could not script a more California moment. Unless Oprah descended from the sky, sprinkling alfalfa sprouts. And once customers realized that the food was legitimately good, and not charging them an arm and a leg, the crowds followed. From that moment on, CPK was a hit. The combination of novelty, accessible luxury, and the "wow, this tastes way better than it sounds" factor made the restaurant spread like wildfire. Actually, this is California, so let's say it spread like avocado on artisanal toast. It was fresh, it was creative, it was fun. And best of all, it felt like a splurge you didn't have to take out a second mortgage for. The timing was perfect. Reagan-era America was ready to spend money on lifestyle dining, but not always fine dining. California Pizza Kitchen was the training wheels for bourgeois food, and people loved it. Success in Beverly Hills was one thing, but whether the concept could survive outside the celebrity bubble was another. So a year after opening, CPK took its first big step, a second location at the Beverly Center. The leap from local hit to national chain then came in 1989, when the Mirage in Las Vegas opened the first franchised California Pizza Kitchen. And Las Vegas is the ultimate stress test for any restaurant. If angry drunk people at 2 a.m. like your food just as much as the 6 p.m. family crowd, you've got a hit. As it turns out, the menu that sounds like it was inspired by a drunken bender worked perfectly. And suddenly the idea of an upscale casual pizza joint seemed not just plausible, but franchise-ready. By 1992, CPK had exploded to 26 locations across 7 states. The founder's idea was scaling beautifully, thanks largely to one menu item that became the breakout star, the barbecue chicken pizza. Created by Ed Ledoux, this pizza wasn't just popular, it defined the brand. On the opening night of the first restaurant, 180 of the 200 pizzas sold were barbecue chicken, so it's no exaggeration to say this pizza carried the franchise on its sweet, smoky, Gouda-sprinkled back. As CPK grew, it essentially invented the upscale casual category. It wasn't fast food, it wasn't fine dining, and it wasn't Domino's. It was a place you could bring your kids, your date, or your out-of-town relatives who wanted to feel fancy without dealing with valet parking. CPK leaned into global inspiration. Thai chicken, wild mushroom, California club, and in 1991, it became the first national chain to ban smoking entirely. They weren't following trends, they were creating them, or at least creating a few trends, as well as some absolutely bonkers pizza topping combinations. It was all going so well, which, in restaurant terms, is how you know disaster is coming. In 1992, PepsiCo entered the chat with a $100 million check for a controlling stake in California Pizza Kitchen. On paper, this was a massive win. Validation from a corporate giant, a pile of money, and the promise of national expansion. But within the industry, everyone had the same reaction. Pepsi, sweetie, you paid what? Yes, everyone agreed Pepsi had wildly overpaid, and that created enormous pressure to grow the chain fast. So fast, it bordered on reckless. CPK opened 15 new stores in 1993 and 28 more in 1994, all fueled by soda money and optimism. But instead of dominating America, they smashed into a wall of cost-cutting and bad decisions. To cut costs, Pepsi replaced CPK's fresh ingredients with frozen ones, sometimes literally the same cheese used for Pizza Hut. Of course, customers noticed immediately, because it went from being a gourmet barbecue chicken pizza to something that tasted like it had been cryogenically frozen for 6 months. The aggressive expansion also put CPK in markets where people were unlikely to pay extra for fancy pizza. Asking diners in small-town America to spend Beverly Hills prices on Thai chicken pizza was, in a word, really, really dumb. And it did not work. And everyone hated it. And it lost money.
Oh, hey! So, things are not going well.
By the mid-90s, the strategy had imploded. Pepsi reversed course, slowed expansion, brought back fresh ingredients, and ultimately tapped out. In 1997, the soda titan sold its stake to a private equity firm, marking the end of one of the strangest mergers in restaurant history. Pizza and soda together at last, and then very quickly divorced. When Pepsi finally noped out of the pizza business in 1997, California Pizza Kitchen fell into the arms of a private equity firm named Bruckman, Rosser, Sherrill & Company. It wasn't the last time CPK would change hands, but it was the last time they'd be owned by a company with so many last names. Anyway, Bruckman, Rosser, and Mustafutz had a simple goal: take CPK public, make a ton of money, and absolutely, definitely do not repeat Pepsi's mistakes. So naturally, the first thing they did was hire a veteran restaurant executive named Fred Hipp, who immediately repeated Pepsi's mistakes, but with more spreadsheets. Hipp came in hot with an aggressive expansion plan that called for 18 new stores in 2002, 22 in 2003, and 28 in 2004. This is the restaurant equivalent of dating someone for 2 weeks and then asking if they want to meet your parents. On paper, it seemed impressive, especially because CPK announced a 16% increase in profits in early 2003. Investors love nothing more than numbers that go up, and CPK was suddenly looking like it had cracked the code. Take an affordable gourmet pizza, multiply it by private equity, and boom, stonks. But the thing about private equity is that sometimes growth means bad news wearing a mustache. In March 2003, California Pizza Kitchen quietly cut its first quarter earnings estimate, which is stock market speak for, please don't ask questions. Rick Rosenfield, one of CPK's founders, did not take kindly to the suspicious math. He started digging and discovered that the glowing profit numbers weren't glowing at all. They were a flashlight pointed at a brick wall. Underperforming new locations were dragging the company down, and the rosy reports were just covering up the significant financial challenges the company still faced.
So dumb, it's brilliant. No! It's just dumb!
Once the truth came out, the situation unraveled fast. Hip and his chief development officer, Tom Ginneman, were promptly fired. The founders, Rosenfield and Flax, swooped back in like two dads returning from vacation to find out the teenagers they left in charge burned down the garage. In 2003, the pair resumed control of the company as co-CEOs and co-chairmen, resetting the business and trying to steady a ship that had now been through two separate corporate identity crises in under 10 years. With Rosenfield and Flax back in charge, California Pizza Kitchen entered a long stretch of relative stability. Well, as stable as a restaurant chain can be when its core product is pizza, but unpredictable. From 2003 all the way to 2011, the founders managed to grow the brand steadily and clean up the chaos left behind by corporate overlords past. But as much as they loved their creation, eventually it was time to hand the baton to yet another private equity firm. Because this story apparently refuses to proceed without at least one leveraged buyout per decade. In 2011, California Pizza Kitchen was sold to Golden Gate Capital for $470 million, which is either a bargain or a warning, depending on your feelings about the future of avocado-forward cuisine. Naturally, Golden Gate immediately started tinkering with the brand. In 2013, CPK rolled out gluten intolerance group certified gluten-free pizzas, officially signaling to diners everywhere that gluten was canceled. In 2014, the company began debuting Next Chapter locations with modernized interiors, sleek tables, warm lighting, and design choices that whispered, "We want the millennials back." By 2015, about 80 stores had been remodeled to include open-air concepts and craft cocktails. Into 2018, CPK introduced its cauliflower crust nationwide, becoming the first major chain to serve a pizza made of the vegetable parents used to punish children. But even with all the new menu items, design refreshes, and attempts to appeal to the kale generation, CPK could not escape the fate shared by thousands of restaurants in 2020. A global pandemic that shut down dining rooms and evaporated revenue overnight. The company, which had been carrying more than $400 million in debt, simply couldn't survive the shutdowns. So, in July of 2020, California Pizza Kitchen filed for bankruptcy, and Golden Gate Capital lost its entire investment. Somewhere, an investor stared at a spreadsheet and thought, "We should have bought the pasta cafeteria." The bankruptcy process was messy, but effective. The scheduled sale of assets, however, collapsed when no qualified bids came in. Apparently, no one wanted to buy a pizza chain during a plague. Go figure. But that failure actually helped CPK restructure. By November 2020, the company emerged from bankruptcy with dramatically reduced debt and a new CFO, Judd Tiernauer, whose job title might as well have been, "Please never let this happen again." By mid-2021, the company was working with advisors to refinance its remaining $177 million in debt and return to something resembling financial stability. After its long, difficult journey through bankruptcy, changing ownership, and cauliflower crust, California Pizza Kitchen has settled into a smaller, leaner version of itself. The chain had more than 250 restaurants globally, but by 2023, that number had shrunk to around 184. Today, it still hovers in the mid-180s range across 32 states and 10 additional countries. It's no longer the flashy mall dining powerhouse of the 90s, but it's far from irrelevant. If anything, the slimmed-down footprint seems to have stabilized the brand. One area that's still booming is CPK's consumer packaged goods line. The company sells 29 million frozen pizzas a year through grocery stores, far more than the number of people who walk into the restaurants themselves. In fact, CPK serves around 20 million guests annually, which means more Americans are eating their grocery store pizzas than their dine-in pizzas. The frozen aisle became CPK's quiet second life. And honestly, a 29 million unit side hustle is nothing to sneeze at. Then, in November 2025, the next chapter began with, yes, that's right, more new owners. CPK was acquired by Consortium Brand Partners and Eldridge Industries for under $300 million. Depending on how you interpret that number, the deal is either an encouraging fresh start or the restaurant industry's equivalent of buying a fixer-upper because you think you're good with tools. The new owners inherit a beloved but battered brand with strong name recognition, a loyal fan base for signature items, and a surprisingly robust frozen pizza empire. So after 40 years, countless menu experiments, multiple private equity flips, a bankruptcy, and more reinventions than Madonna, California Pizza Kitchen is still here. Smaller, stranger, and absolutely impossible to kill. Whether the chain can rebuild, expand, or reinvent itself yet again is still an open question. But if history has taught us anything, it's this. As long as private equity companies are out there squeezing the last nickel out of every brand name you've ever heard of, California Pizza Kitchen will always find a way to survive. So what do you think? And are you a fan of California Pizza Kitchen? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History Food.